David Sanders from Wilbraham Public Access is recording. Is there anyone else here recording this meeting? We will begin with roll call in alphabetical order. Phil Bontempi. Cheryl Caruana. Here. Sean Kennedy. Lisa Murray. Here. Rich Rediker. Here. Mike Terabasi. Michelle Boudreau. Here. If you would please stand, Rich will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It does not appear that we have any student representation this evening, so we will move on to public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comment this evening? So we will begin with the subcommittee updates. So we'll begin with the curriculum subcommittee. Lisa?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Do you have another meeting scheduled?
Nope,
Okay.
not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. We will move to the planning committee. So we had discussed the plan for an innovation pathway, which would involve Dr. Provost to, my notes, wasn't prepared to be this quick. Actually, do you want to talk about it, Lauren?
Sure.
Sorry.
Happy to jump in.
Wasn't in my notes.
So it would involve, first of all, trying to identify industry partners and higher education partners who would work with us, because every pathway has to have a minimum of one partner in the industry and one higher education partner. I'll just say that I have the honor of speaking at Rivers East tomorrow morning, which is where we honor all the mentors who are involved in our extensive work-based learning program. And so I will let them know that that is an interest of the district. The other steps involved would be identifying whether or not there is an appetite within the district to start a pathway sufficient to help us sort of induce a sufficient number of students to move from the middle school to the high school in order to relieve the overcrowding that we currently have at the middle school. Now, innovation pathway doesn't necessarily have to involve 8th grade or have to be at the high school, but it is one way that we might sort of garner some support from the community for people who are interested in exploring that option. I think it would also be one way of hearing really the concerns of some of the residents at the public forum about whether or not it's appropriate or safe to have 8th grade students with older students. If there was a smaller group who wanted to start sort of voluntarily, we would be able to have some of our own data that we could talk about and some of our own experiences we could talk about, because I remember some of the feedback we got at that meeting was that the experiences of students on the Cape may not be comparable to experiences of students from our own community. So those would be sort of initial steps, and then educating and making parents aware of the potential offerings, much in the same way LVPEC educates students about C-Tech opportunities would be the way we would proceed. And then at a certain point we have to make a decision about whether it looks like we have the interest and whether it looks like we have partners, and then we could move forward from there.
So that was discussion, as well as just making sure that one of the things that we learned from the forum, the community forum, was making sure that we are getting the information out there and really explaining the why of what we're doing, the benefits, and how it will impact the students in a positive way. And then we also discussed maybe the way that we, and also making sure that we are sharing how the regional agreement impacts the changes and the reconfiguration that we're looking to do in the district. And then the other point was perhaps focusing on one portion of reconfiguration versus trying to affect and change the entire district all at once, which the conversation was. Possibly moving to neighborhood schools and moving the 8th grade to the high school, maybe just focusing on how we're going to alleviate the overcrowding at Wilbraham Middle School. Sean, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much from everyone that I talked, well, not everyone I talked to, but most of the people I talked to, And the people at that event, you know, and the teachers don't seem like they want to go back to neighborhood schools, right? I didn't know if that was something we were still pushing. Maybe we could take a vote on it. Yep, you're right, Michael. But also, I like what you were saying. So if we're going to say the 8th graders going to the high school, let's, you know, come up with a plan and then a multiple tier attack. Let's get it in the newspaper at the same time we get it on, you know, Facebook or Instagram or whatever, wherever presence we have. Robocalls, letters to the parents. Let's just get that common message out in every way possible. The one thing which was interesting was some of the people who were there at that meeting hadn't been informed of anything because their children were in kindergarten this year. So all the stuff that we did in the fall and over the summer, they missed because their student wasn't enrolled yet. So I don't know if there's any way of contacting those parents that have students that are coming in, you know, and adding them to the list. And let's get our message out, whatever bullet points we have, we can talk about it and workshop it here at this meeting, and come out with an actual plan and just hit everywhere at the same time with the same stuff and answer the questions that people have. You know, I think we did a you know, pretty good job last time, but it wasn't as a wide. We didn't throw as wide a net as we probably should have.
I really like the idea of the innovative pathways and volunteer to help out in any way I can, so I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, 100%. Anything. I've started asking some questions, you know, at the place where I work to see if there's any, you know, anything there. And I'll let you know as soon as I hear it. But I'm really excited about the innovative pathways.
So, the innovative pathways is a good idea. Is there any reason that we're not trying to put it in place for starting in 9th grade? You know, it seems like we try to do big changes that fix everything and fall on our faces because it's too much to bite off. But if we want to do innovative pathways, which I don't think is a bad idea, I've been thinking about proposing for a while now that we would start it in the 9th grade and see how it goes and what the bumps in the road are, and then if it then looks like it would be something that 8th graders would benefit from, then consider bringing 8th graders up for that.
If I could ask you, you said that we try to fix things big and fall on our face. Could you give us an example of what you're talking about?
No, I just mean about our thought of moving the 8th grade up to the high school, and then we kind of were not parallel with the town.
With some people in the town from that meeting, yeah.
You're right. You're right. You know, those that spoke up at the meeting were not in favor of the plan, and you are right. Like, if there was a non-binding ballot question, for instance, at a town election, we might see a very different opinion. And that's another thing that I've been needing to suggest. If we wanted to pursue any kind of polling in the forms of like non-binding ballot questions, obviously not for this coming town election, but maybe for the next year. It might be another way to maybe get a more balanced polling of the feeling of the community.
I think that in order to attack the problem of overcrowding, moving a few 8th graders on a voluntary basis is a great idea, because one, it helps with overcrowding. Two, it gives us, after a year, you can say, see, there's no problem there with the 8th graders, they get along fine. Hopefully that's what happens, and then it can be open for more. So it's like a seed, nobody's being forced, just voluntary, only those that want to go. I think it's a great idea.
Well, that's in fact a whole nother perspective that it's separate from an innovative pathway as to whether we want to just make it a voluntary invitation. We don't have to have an innovative pathway necessarily in place if we wanted to, you know, make it. The only, and I think that is potentially a really great way to go. The only potential negative, like the way we could get bit by that, is that if like 20 kids want to go, then it turns into, now all of a sudden it's an expensive proposition, right? It's not enough to move a team out of the middle school and they may not be able to be absorbed with existing staff.
Yeah, we could put in place that, this will only work if we have X amount of.
No, I know, well, exactly, we'd want to
Yeah.
have contingency plans in place.
But we have one student, Nicholas Kennedy, ready to go.
If I can just answer the question you'd asked about ninth grade. Typically, they do start at ninth grade, so there is no reason why that could not happen. Part of the thinking about extending it to eighth grade would be to sort of create more interest in students who are thinking about potentially moving to the high school so that they could see a benefit from it. That would be the only reason.
Yeah,
Is this on or off?
I guess it's on. Oh, it was on.
it's not so
Oh,
strong.
it's on.
All right, but I think it's a great idea, and it's something that could be positive for
And you're on
the kids,
speakerphone, Bill.
and doesn't necessarily have to be linked to moving eighth graders. If it's something that we could do, and the kids could benefit from it, it might be great if it also worked out that it helped with the overcrowding problem, but there's no reason for the kids to not benefit from it if we're not able to make it work with the eighth graders.
This will be on the next agenda as well, so for a more robust discussion or even a possible vote on some of these options. But this was just committee update. Does anyone else have any other questions or thoughts? Okay, we move on to finance and operations subcommittee. Sean?
Rich.
Yeah, so, yeah, if you press that,
I don't know if the blinking means the batteries involved, so it's ready.
you just gotta push it hard. There you go. And the other one might work as well. When Bill comes, he can pass it. Are you having it for me for finance and operations? Okay. Do we want to start, or how do we discuss the letter that we received and how we want to proceed?
I have some suggestions.
Yeah.
So I think, as you all know, you received a privileged attorney-client communication based on the situation that we've been advised of, that town council for the town of Wilbraham has said that the finance committee's figure will be the one published on the warrant, but the town will reference the HWRSD's figure. It'll probably reference in an explanation statement below the warrant article. So you have an opinion from your own attorney about that and a number of options. I think maybe in the context of this public discussion of a private memo, it might be best just to refer to them as option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, so that you still have some level of confidentiality.
So,
Does this meet criteria for an executive session, and is it best tabled for an executive session?
I don't think it would. I mean,
Doesn't
we did have some
Strategizing for negotiating with the town?
but
no.
No, okay.
maybe it's close. Aaron and I actually had a conversation about that. That one is usually thought of as like contract negotiations or those types of negotiations. I didn't get an opinion about whether it would qualify for an executive session.
Do we have that hard copy here, or did we not get a hard copy of that letter?
No, just in your email.
Just,
I
okay,
do have a
read
hard
it on
copy.
Can we
email.
talk about it at the next meeting then? Because I'm not comfortable saying option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4.
No, but here's what I'll say is that the number that we came up with and we presented to the town, us duly elected by the citizens of Hamden and Wilbraham, have been usurped by people who've been appointed in Wilbraham, so that their number is going up. I do not feel comfortable with that in a democracy. I do not feel comfortable in that in this government of ours, by the people, for the people, so, of the people. So I will be going tomorrow to talk to I think Carol, she's still right in charge, and talk to her about what ways that the town recommends that we can do this. I'm surprised that our warrant hasn't gone up, because isn't that usually how it is? The finance committee either says yay or nay. They would put our number up and then they would say that they didn't approve of it, but now they're putting their number up, and I would, you know, I don't know, so I didn't ever got a copy of their budget on how they're proceeding to do with this. I just got a final number. So if the town wanted to send us a budget, you know, their budget for what the school committee should be, I'd be really happy to see that. And then I think that we should meet, maybe have a special meeting about this and make a decision on how we're gonna handle the town meeting and what we're gonna do. I know that Hamden would probably like to hear what we're gonna do and what the plan is before they go into their town meeting, so they would know, no? Maybe.
We can ask. I don't
Yeah.
think that, I mean, our town meeting is May 13th.
Right,
And they had their advisory hearing already.
yeah,
And I don't know that the politics that are happening in Wilbraham are going to
happening,
affect
yeah.
what
well, that's great.
their
Oh,
decision is going to be.
I think our strategy might differ depending on what Hamden does at their town meeting. And so we might want to wait to discuss what our strategy is, because, you know, if Hamden chooses to not support the assessment, then that's a different situation than if Hamden has chosen to support the assessment and you know, that's, so.
I believe they have chosen to support the assessment, the finance did, advisory.
Hamden Advisory did, but the town hasn't voted. So
Understood,
that's,
yeah.
yeah, that's not the town can choose to vote on however they want.
Not really, the town does not have to support our assessment. They do not have to. They can say they agree with it or disagree with it, but this is a new thing where they're writing their own budget and they're saying this is the number that they're putting forward. It's Hamden is saying that they're going with their number rather than voting yea or nay for our number. So, yeah, I would recommend maybe having our attorney talk to their attorney and seeing if there's some middle ground that we can come up with. This is not something that's going to get easier. It's something that's going to get harder and harder every year. So I think this is something that we need to figure out now. And then after the attorneys talk, I think we should at the same time figure out what we want to do about maybe, is that crickets because I'm talking, or?
No, that's just my phone ringer. That wakes me up at night.
So, if, it may be like we should figure out what is the plan, what is the, in town meeting, what is appropriate for us to present our number and get the vote for our number. So, I mean, I'll talk to Carol about that tomorrow, and then also we gotta reach out to the moderator, but I think the moderator for Wilbraham will change, you know, because they're having the election. So after the elections, we should also talk to the moderator for the town to make sure that we are in line on what the right procedure is to bring our budget, which I believe, what is it, a $60,000 difference, $70,000 difference between budgets?
60 to
$67,000.
the Wilbraham assessment,
60 to the
so
Wilbraham
add another 15 for Hamden.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but Hamden has the number, they have our number.
Right.
Right.
If
They didn't have
if
Wilbraham's
Wilbraham's
revised
number
budget.
gets voted, then Hamden's assessment goes down accordingly.
Right, yeah.
So how are we proceeding? So are we?
I think we're
waiting
covering
for
all
another-
bases.
Another meeting? Are we discussing this at another meeting?
I think we should have another meeting after the attorneys have spoken, and
And after Hamden as well.
is it okay if I reach out to Carol, or does anyone else want to do it, or is that okay? Okay. I'll reach out and I'll find out what the plan is for how we would.
But I actually think we, at another meeting, we probably need to strategize what we're going to do, not just at town meeting, but in the week before the town meeting. I mean, you know, there's no, if the warrant actually ends up getting printed as we've been told it's going to be, there's no question about the fact that it is extremely misleading to the people that will be attending town meetings. So I think that, you know, it would be in order for us to go on and educate the town campaign by all social and written media available to us during the week before the town meeting.
I agree.
Can I just ask for clarification from my part? Would you like me to also reach out to Attorney Sweeney and see if he feels like that conversation would qualify for an exemption for executive session?
I would,
Yes,
Okay.
but also have him talk to their attorneys as well.
because in some ways, we're negotiating for everyone's salary.
Does everyone agree with that, that we're gonna ask Attorney Sweeney to talk to their attorney and see what he can come up with from there? At the same time, advise us whether we can talk about this in open session or executive session in detail, and that I'll talk with Carol and find out what the actual plan is and verbiage and everything like that for us, and motions that we need to make. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, can I
Yeah.
just ask, I'm sorry,
Sure.
I was getting bits and pieces, so I heard something about Hamden. So have we seen what is on the warrant for Hamden with regards to
It's
their
our
budget
number.
appropriation?
It's our number.
It's our number.
Yeah,
So,
correct, right? Double checking, yeah.
so the warrants are mismatched. So the warrants are, the warrants are not.
No, the warrants are not mismatched. What Wilbraham is publishing is the mismatch. Like, they have come up with a new budget for us, but I have not seen their budget.
Right, what I'm
So their
saying,
budget is $60,000 less.
right, so what I'm saying is that. These,
67,000.
right, what I'm saying is that the assessments between the two towns have a certain percentage that they have,
Yep.
percentage threshold that they have to reach. So why I'm saying there's a mismatch is because
Yeah.
Wilbraham's number, it does not match the percentage totals of the student population based on our SIMS data, so.
Or the warrant that we gave them, it does not match that either.
So, this definitely falls into a situation where you have to get council involved in this because, we're now in violation of the regional agreement because we are now asking a number from Wilbraham that is a number that is a certain percentage lower than what the school committee had proposed, had voted on. And so Hamden's number is higher. So Hamden's paying.
No, the number that we sent out are higher, the number that they're voting on. That's why I said we're gonna try to see, we're gonna see if the attorneys can resolve this beforehand. So we're gonna instruct Attorney Sweeney to do that. Second, we're gonna see if Attorney Sweeney wants us to, if we can do this in executive session or open session. And third, that I'm also gonna talk to Carol, that if we want to fight this and put our number forth, like what steps, what warrants, what motions, whatever that we have to do, what has to be submitted at what time, that kind of stuff, to make it all legal and copacetic for the town meeting.
So the other question that I have is, so how did this happen? So we submitted our assessment letters to the two towns, and that vote from the school committee is the binding number that should be placed on the warrant. There's no ambiguity about that. I mean, that's.
I would say it's just politics on the finance committee. We have a bunch of officials there. Some of them are amazing, doing great work, and some are playing, with some political games, I guess. So it's unfortunately, you have people who are not voted for, who are appointed, and I guess they feel that they can usurp this committee that's been duly voted for by the community, that they can usurp whatever they want to usurp, I guess. I've never seen this before.
I realize that Dr. Von Tempe's question might have been somewhat rhetorical, but I'll just say, don't know what happened. Assessment letters went out, and then we received an email saying the number is not going to be the number that's reflected in the assessment letter. No communication or any process that we're aware of between those two events.
But unfortunately, I mean, Aaron, you know as much about this as anybody. The assessment letter is it's a legally, it's a binding document. It's a binding
It is,
document.
my experience has been that in most regional districts, even if the town wanted to propose a different number or something like that, the school committee's number would be the primary number on there, right? Again, they could vote down. I think the interesting thing that John and I also talked about is that I don't think voters would know that a yes vote means that the school budget fails. Right? And that throws a whole chain of events that, again, if the school committee stands behind the budget, it means the town then has to schedule another special town meeting at expense to the town, right?
Well, also, we're making, unless this has changed, but don't we usually present the budget And we can do that presentation saying the number that you're seeing there is not the number that's on the budget, and maybe work that into your presentation as well as those, I mean, anyone from Hampton or Wilbraham. I think you from Hampton
They
can speak
did
at town
not
meeting, right?
have us
I know
present the
we
budget.
can.
They did not have us present the budget last year.
Right, I went right
And
to
there's
those.
no, I don't believe there's any requirement that they have to let us present our budget.
Yeah, but there would be time to talk about it.
You could stand up at town meeting.
Yeah, we can stand up at
Yeah,
town
now,
meeting and we can talk about
you
it.
can stand up at town meeting and
Yeah.
propose an
It will be the
amendment.
job of all.
Right, you can make
the
a motion
Wilbraham
for a higher
residents
number, you can
on
make a
the
motion to
committee.
double
Yeah.
the budget,
Right,
right? You can make a motion to double the assessment. You know, that's within your purview
Yeah.
as a resident taxpayer of Wilbraham. I mean, John and I can't.
Has this ever been done before in the last 30 years since the agreement?
I do not remember a time where they just changed a number that they were given. They could either approve or not approve, that was all that
Because
finance.
when we did, my memory's not great, but 30 years ago when we did that original agreement, I thought that the numbers that were proposed had to be paid by each town. If they wanted to cut it, it would have to come out of another 20% of the budget. That was not school related.
But if we did,
In,
from what you've described though, the town of Hampton wasn't even notified that Wilbraham had reduced their assessment by 70,000.
67.
well, this is, I mean, this is the FinCom's vote that happened, I think, immediately before we voted the budget, right?
Their
So you
recommendation.
They voted it on Wednesday night and you all voted the budget on a Thursday night, right?
Right, correct.
Um,
But the whole idea behind
I
it,
mean,
the whole idea behind the assessment is that the school district, the school committee has the legal authority to present the article for the warrant, and that's our job. That's one of the three enumerated powers of the school committee is
Right.
to set the budget. So, you know, having that number replaced with a lower number, you know, runs afoul of state law. We're in a position where, you know, we are presenting a budget based on what we feel is the best budget for the upcoming fiscal year. But the bigger question that I have is, in terms of legality, is, you know, now you've got, like I said, a mismatched warrant, because Hampton's going into a town meeting, which is asking for a particular number, which is no longer in line with what the regional agreement requires us to do in terms of assessments, which is splitting it based on the student population. So
We did it.
but I'm saying, so right now, if we kept the finance committee number where it is, then Hampden voters would be approving a budget number that would be larger than what their responsibility is. So that's why I say it's a mismatch, because if there's no, and that's one of the big problems I see with this, is there was no discussion with Hampden. At least if there was coordination between the finance committee in Wilbraham and the advisory board in Hampden to say, all right, we're gonna lower this number, and so proportionally, you know, this is what the number's gonna be, and if Hampden Advisory had done that, at least it would have shown some degree of coordination, but this shows basically just a sort of a unilateral effort on the part of the finance committee.
I think it has to be said for clarity, it appears that Wilbraham FinCom was not in support of the addition of vocational technical education for the ninth graders. The amount of money that they asked the budget to be reduced by was exactly the amount of money for that programming. They were against it, they felt that Wilbraham shouldn't pay for it, and that was the action they took on the budget, even though in reality, circumstances have changed over the year, and there really is no choice in regards to that, right? Because the students can't enter in the 10th grade to vocational technical education. The change wasn't made because of that, but it's a reality that we have now. The change was made because the strategic long-range plan demanded it, the voices in town demanded it, and it's the right thing for the kids.
Well, most importantly, it's not, legally, they have no right to do that. That is the purview of the school committee completely. They can vote to, and this is the way it is at every town meeting, they can make the recommendations to approve, not approve. That's their role in this. Their role is not to set the budget. That's our responsibility, 100%.
Bill, did you get a copy of the school committee budget from the finance committee? Have they come up with their own budget? Have you received one?
No.
No, okay, I don't either. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I mean, is everyone, we're all there? All right.
Well,
I mean,
and
if we have to do-
especially, we got that, just got that email from Aaron today. We have another budget shortfall on the boiler. How much money are we short?
25,000.
26,000.
$26,000. Do we have that amount of money left in Minichog stabilization?
I can look, we should, yeah.
So, okay, so we have a potential option,
We have an
but,
avenue.
but Minichog stabilization has been nearly spent out, E&D has been nearly spent out, all to make the budget happen, largely under the encouragement of Wilbraham FinCom. And I'm starting to get very concerned about the financial stability of the school district in terms of our ability to deal with unexpected expenses. And we can't say they don't happen. Look at what's happened over the last several years. I mean, how much more did we pay for electricity one year than we expected? You know, I mean, how are we supposed to, you know, I mean, I don't think that they
We'll take it a step-
appreciate how close down to the wire we really are.
And we'll take it a step further, my friend, right? So we're voting on a budget, and the budget we voted for in June, but then we won't know how much money we're getting from the state until July, if we're lucky. I mean,
August,
so,
September,
August, right? I
October.
mean, we're saying, okay, here's our budget, and it's like, how do we really know what our budget is? Because we don't even know how much money we're gonna be getting. It's Aaron's alchemy, you know?
It's the best guess.
Eye of Newton, throw a couple worms in there and stir the pot, and then poof, hopefully we get a number that works.
Right.
Well, and hopefully there's more math to it than that, to try to garner support for the town. But I understand your sentiment, Sean. It's when, you know, I mean, for me, and I think for everyone here on the committee, we have the kids close to our hearts, and we want what's right for the kids. And if money runs out and then the kids suffer, and none of us want to see that happen. So it makes a scary situation.
Yeah, not to rub salt in the wound, but I will, because we're on that subject. How much is this gonna cost us in terms of legal fees?
Yeah.
To be able to pay our attorneys for their time to actually go through and chase this rabbit down the hole. And where does that money come from? It comes right from our budget. So, you know, the organization that is supposed to be, you know, a steward of the finances of the town is basically putting us in a position where now we need to expend even more money on legal expenses to be able to unravel this, because this is a mess. Because now you have, like I said, you have mismatched, the budget requests of the two towns are mismatched. And so now the warrant that is being presented in Hamden is not accurate.
I
No,
would
the
say the one in
warrant in
Wilbraham.
Hamden is.
Based on
Yeah.
based on what finance is doing in Wilbraham.
Yeah, Bill,
the warrant is-
you're making it, the way you word it, in saying,
Yeah,
it
no,
just
it's-
sounds like that we're doing this. This is not something we're doing.
No, right, I'm saying.
We sent out everything officially, and then the finance committee came up with their own budget, and, you know, that was, you know, $67,000 less.
The assessment letters, when they go out, who do they go to? Do they go to Nick?
They go to
Town administrators?
the selectmen of each town. So, but I copy Nick. I think I copied Nick. So I email them and I send them by certified mail.
So I have no idea how there could have been any ambiguity as to the number that would have been included on the article.
I think letting our attorney,
I don't think there was.
yeah.
I think
I read the letter. We all
the
did.
Wilbraham FinCom is what they based it on.
But I think if we have the attorneys talk, then we don't have to go for some kind of legal action to stop that number from appearing. You know, so we'll just pursue all of our avenues, and then hopefully the attorneys can be the clearer heads that will prevail.
And we will schedule a meeting as needed.
Yep, that's for sure.
All right, I'll be back.
Do we want to, like, just in case, put a meeting in there, so just, because if something comes up, we want to be able to meet, but then you need 48 hours to post a meeting. Do we want to maybe put a meeting in for next week?
Don't we have a
We
meeting
have
in a
one for
second?
next week.
Yeah, we have one.
Yeah.
We have a
Next
meeting
Thursday.
next
Yeah, this one was
Thursday.
pushed back a week. We have a meeting.
Yeah.
Thursday, okay.
Thursday,
Alright.
May 2nd.
Is
It's
that-
really last week.
So if we need to add another one moving forward, we're able to do that.
Okay.
Lisa, collaborative update?
Our meeting yesterday was like from 5 to 9:30, so I feel like I still need time.
Okay,
And I'll report next time.
no problem. There's nothing for negotiations. We will continue with the policy subcommittee. Mike?
Whew, I almost muted my microphone. All right, memorandum on the third reading for the following Section E policies, and I'll be looking for a motion and possible vote. EB, safety program. EBB, first aid. EBC, emergency plans. EBCD, emergency closings. EC, buildings and ground management. EEAE, school bus safety program. EEAEB, drug and alcohol testing for school bus and commercial vehicle drivers. EEAEC, also JICC, student conduct on school bus. EEAJ, motor vehicle idling on school grounds. EFC, free and reduced price food services. EHAA, district security relating to technology. EHB, data and records retention.
Make a motion to accept the third reading of the aforementioned Section E policies.
Second.
We're all here. All those in favor?
Before we vote,
Oh.
did we ever figure out how much, if we are in compliance with the motor vehicle idling on school grounds, how, we were talking about when all the buses get there and they sit, did we ever go down that rabbit hole?
So I did reach out to the principals. It's interesting, if you closely read the policy, the one time when vehicles are allowed to idle is when they're picking up or dropping off kids. So it really is only meant to prohibit idling during the school day.
Okay,
So not really a problem. We are in compliance.
thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We now have memorandum on second reading of the following Section E and Section G policies. EC1, Regional School District Buildings and Ground Management. GBA, Equal Employment Opportunity. GBEA, Staff Ethics, Conflict of Interest. GBEB, Staff Conduct. GBEBC, Gifts to and solicitations by staff. GBEBD, online fundraising and solicitations, crowdfunding. GBEC, drug-free workplace policy. GBGB, staff, personnel, security and safety. GBGE, domestic violence leave policy. GBCF, family medical leave. GBI, staff participation in political activities. GBJ, personal records. GCA, professional staff positions. GCBA, professional staff salary schedules. GCBB, employment of principals. GCBC, professional staff supplementary paid plans. GCE, professional staff recruiting, posting of vaccines. GCF, professional, vacancies, sorry. Sorry, vaccines on the brain, I guess. GCF, professional staff hiring. GCB, substitute professional staff employment. GCIA, philosophy of staff development. GCJ, professional teacher status. GCK, professional staff assignments and transfers. GDB, support staff contracts and compensation plans. Memorandum on second reading of the following Section H policies. HA, negotiations goals. HB, negotiations legal status. HF, school committee negotiating agents. Memorandum on second reading of the following Section I policies. I, J, and D, access to digital resources. And we have another meeting that has been scheduled for, I'm just going to ask you, Aaron, so I don't mess it up.
Tuesday, May 7th at 5:30 in the district office.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, Technology Subcommittee?
No report.
Okay. Superintendent Evaluation Committee, we have a meeting Monday, April 29th at 5 o'clock in the district office. Consent agenda.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Who passed the
opposed?
warrants around?
Okay. Motion carries 7-0. So we are now at the superintendent's update.
Thank you. As you will recall from our budget presentation, training staff at all schools to implement the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines, or CSTAG, was one of the accomplishments to address the climate and safety components of our strategic plan that we did this year. Based upon that, we were invited to partner with Boston Children's Hospital as part of a multi-state study of school-based multidisciplinary threat assessment teams. Researchers are seeking to understand how this approach could be applied in different settings besides schools. I think whenever you can engage a community partner such as Boston Children's, there are benefits to district effectiveness, just as having access to other colleagues to think about the process has already helped me as I've talked to researchers. I'm sure that it'll help us to deepen our practice of CSTAG within the district. Additionally, I think it sends a positive message to the community to know that we're using best practices and that we're working with a highly respected institution to see how our practices might help other kinds of institutions. Also, included in your packet the March 29th MASS newsletter, just to bring to your attention that I moderated the April 10th Wednesday webinar, which is part of a series of monthly webinars developed by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents to support district leaders in the critically important work of advancing racial equity, diversity, and inclusion in every school in the Commonwealth. It brought me back to the beginning of my career as a superintendent because I had the opportunity to interview Liz City and Rachel Curtis, who are authors of Strategy in Action, which is the original core text of the new superintendent induction program. I was in the second cohort of the new superintendent program, so I still have my Liz City and Rachel Curtis book. I still keep it on my shelf and I refer to it frequently. The topic of our discussion was the structure, systems, and leadership practices that's close to serve opportunity gaps. And that is now archived on the MASS website to serve as a resource for other districts and other superintendents who are working to develop systems in their districts to close equity gaps. And then finally, I'd like to report that we received a $10,000 grant from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to participate in what I believe to be a first-of-its-kind attendance recovery program. We have discussed the negative consequences of chronic absenteeism on student success at previous meetings. And this year, DESE made funds available for districts who wanted to give students with attendance issues the opportunity to make up missed days. So for our program, we decided to target middle and high school students whose days of absence were in the high teens or low 20s as of the beginning of April, because this is technically right around the technical cut point for chronic absenteeism, which would be 18 days missed in a full school year. So we ran our program during April vacation, and we're able to recover 51 days of student attendance. It remains to be seen how effective this will be, but I think it stands to reason that providing students who've missed a lot of instructional time with the opportunity to work directly with teachers, either individually or in small groups, and to catch up on work that they're missing because of days they've missed can only be to their benefit. That's my report.
Could you be amenable to putting that report into your artifacts for your evaluation, because it fits on so many levels of what a superintendent should be doing?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, future agenda items. Anything else to add?
I just have one question, because it's kind of nagging me. When I read through the lawyer's report about this whole, oh, sorry, thank you. When I read through Sean Sweeney's report, there were 5 options, and we haven't even looked at those before we go out and start knocking on people's doors and talking to them. I think it would be hard because we're having a truncated meeting tonight to go through those 5 options, but I just think that due diligence would lead us to look at those 5 options.
That's on our next agenda.
That's all.
Excellent. Thank you.
The conversation that the attorneys are gonna have is just smart conversation, and I'm going as a citizen to say, hey, if something like this happens, how in town meeting do we rectify it, just to see what steps are, appropriate and within the rules of the town meeting. So.
The other part of that is that, that's a privileged communication. So we would basically be surrendering our attorney-client privilege if we were to, if we were to discuss that in detail.
Mhm.
Like, I might, oh, sorry. Sorry, it would definitely, you know, put us in a position where we are surrendering our rights in terms of attorney-client privilege. So I think that's very risky territory. I understand the, you know, the motivation behind it. However, you know, what was stated in that letter is a privileged communication. So I would say, let's try to let's try to get the attorneys involved as much as possible. You know, hopefully there will be some type of arrangement or agreement with them. As I said, you know, the options that he provides us are, that's privileged, so.
Rich, did
I was gonna say, going back to the student attendance and absenteeism, is there anything on tardiness, chronic tardiness leading to absenteeism? Or you have kids that are tardy or kids that are absent?
I can just tell you it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you don't have a rotating schedule, so it's the same period that's being hit every time.
I just knew that, at least back in the day, the school had a policy, this is where I taught, 6 tardies, you get this, 12 tardies, you get this, and even 1 tardy is 1 tardy too many. If you're gonna be go to work and get to work late, you know, it's a habit that starts just accumulating, so I don't know what you're doing. I just want to stop it at 1 and not say, okay, you can have 6 free tardies, and then the 7th one is when you get a detention or something.
Well, the consequences for students are more present in the high school because there is period attendance, and if you miss so many classes within a semester, then you can lose credit for the class. So there is some accountability there. But I would say it's a problem at all grade levels.
Our next meeting is next Thursday, May 2nd at 6:30 in the IRC at Minichog.
I just want to say that I opened this today. I was invited to the evening of reception, evening of recognition. But that's the same day as our school committee meeting on the 15th. So I was going to check my calendar to see if I can go to this. So is it going to be the same time, or possibly the school committee meetings first? This starts at 6 o'clock, or?
We tried that, Rich, to our school committee. We moved it for the art show, I think it was, to Wednesday, but now that looks like the recognition night is at, what time, 6 o'clock? We could do our meeting at 5. It's the evening of recognition.
We'll take a look at that at another time. Not today.
I was just
They have
checking
a
my
motion
calendar
to-
to see if I
yes.
can go to this.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. We'll do roll call. Bill?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Myself, aye, we're adjourned 7:18.
Great, aye.
Oh, Lisa, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Lisa wants to stay.
I'm like, thinking everybody. I'm sorry.
Lisa has to stay.
I'm still sorry.